The fire burns low, and the night carries with it the hush of forgotten worlds, as though the earth itself remembers cities swallowed by time, cities that once sang with life and now echo only in dreams. Tonight, let us wander into the mystery of the lost cities of the ancient world, where myth and memory entwine, and where silence itself seems to tell a story. The first city we step into is Atlantis, the legendary isle described by Plato as a land of wealth and wisdom, a kingdom of shining marble and golden temples that glittered above the sea, until pride and greed brought upon it a divine punishment. Atlantis, they say, sank in a single night, its spires tumbling into the waves, its people crying out as waters swallowed streets and gardens. Some claim it was no city at all, but a metaphor, a story of human folly. Yet even in the medieval imagination, Atlantis lived on as a dream of lost perfection, whispered in monasteries, sung in travelers' tales, painted into maps at the edge of the known world. Close your eyes and picture it, a city glowing beneath a clear sun, ships lining its harbors, its people clothed in silks and gold, their laughter ringing through markets, and then, in an instant, the roar of the sea, the sky blackened, and all vanished beneath waves. Yet though it sank, it rose again in dream, so that even centuries later, men searched the seas hoping to glimpse marble columns through the blue depths. In Atlantis, we see not only a city, but the story of all human longing for perfection, for paradise lost, for a place where beauty might have lasted forever. And so Atlantis remains not beneath the sea alone, but within the tides of our hearts, a reminder that nothing made by human hands can resist the eternal ocean of time. From Atlantis, let us drift further east in dream, toward the fabled lands of Lemuria and Mu, continents said to stretch across oceans, now vanished without a trace. 19th century scholars imagined them, but their roots lie deeper in human imagination, the idea that once there were lands now lost beneath waves, homes of forgotten peoples, keepers of secret wisdom. Picture a continent with endless forests, mountains higher than clouds, temples carved from crystal, and peoples who walked with knowledge of the stars. Then, earthquakes, floods, and fire consumed it, and the sea rolled over its mountains, leaving only foam and silence. Some dream that their survivors traveled into our world, planting seeds of civilization, teaching arts, astronomy, and the building of stone cities. And so, even if Lemuria and Mu never existed in stone, they live in the human desire to believe that wisdom never truly dies, but travels, disguised, from one age to the next. Let us walk now toward the glittering legend of El Dorado, the golden city of the New World. For centuries, men rode through jungles, climbed mountains, crossed rivers, all chasing the dream of a city where roofs shone with gold, where streets sparkled with dust of sunlight, and kings bathed themselves in treasures. El Dorado may have been a misunderstanding, a truth twisted by rumor, yet for those who pursued it, the Golden City was more than wealth. It was the promise that somewhere in the world lay a perfection unspoiled, a shining heart of the earth itself. Imagine the explorers cutting through thick jungle, exhausted and starving, but suddenly seeing a vision of towers glittering in the distance, a mirage of sun upon water, which to their hearts became proof that El Dorado waited just beyond the next hill. Perhaps it never was, yet in the longing for it, we see again the same yearning that built Atlantis and taught the human hunger for paradise, shining always just beyond reach. And far to the north, hidden in mountains of snow and silence, another lost city is whispered, Shambhala. In Tibetan lore, it is a kingdom of peace, invisible to all but the pure of heart, where people live in harmony, free from suffering, guarded by mountains, and bathed in eternal light. Pilgrims walked through frozen passes, convinced they might stumble upon its gates, while monks whispered that its walls cannot be seen with eyes, only with spirit. Shambhala was not a city of marble but of wisdom, not lost to time but hidden within time, waiting to reveal itself when the world is ready. Imagine standing upon a mountain, breath white in the air, and for a moment, through swirling snow, seeing towers of light gleaming, a city, not of stone but of peace. You blink, and the vision fades, yet the memory lingers forever, softer than dream, stronger than reality. And so in these first wanderings we have touched Atlantis beneath the sea, Lemuria beneath imagination, El Dorado within the jungle, and Shambhala, hidden in snow. They may not stand upon maps, their streets may hold no footsteps, yet they live more strongly than many cities that endure. For lost cities are not simply places, they are mirrors of ourselves, of our hope for paradise, our fear of loss, our hunger for eternity. The fire burns low, the night deepens, and these cities rest now in silence, waiting for dreamers to visit once more. Sleep, then, with their memory in your heart, for in dream, all lost cities rise again, their bells ringing softly through the night. Beyond the shimmer of Shambhala and the roar of the ocean that swallowed Atlantis, our path leads us into the ruins of cities that were carved upon the earth, not only upon dreams, yet still they slipped into silence, as though time itself turned its face away. The first among these is Babylon, a city of gates and gardens, towers and tongues, where the air shimmered with incense and the river flowed like a silver vein through its heart. The Hanging Gardens, one of the wonders of the world, were said to rise in terraces of green, watered by secret machines, shaded by palms and vines. A paradise built by a king for his queen. Imagine walking through Babylon's walls so broad that chariots raced upon them while ziggurats climbed like mountains toward the heavens, and the great Ishtar Gate glowed blue with glazed tiles, lions and dragons marching across it in brilliant patterns. Yet Babylon fell, its gardens vanished, its towers toppled, its river carrying away fragments of brick. Today only sand covers its streets, but in the medieval mind, Babylon was never just a city, it was pride, power, sin, and glory, a place both real and symbolic, teaching that even the mightiest walls crumble when time commands. From Babylon, let us wander further east to the city of Mohenjo-daro, once alive in the Indus Valley, where streets ran straight as lines, houses bore courtyards and wells, and drains flowed beneath the earth in patterns more advanced than kingdoms far younger. Here, thousands walked, traded, crafted, and dreamed, and then scholars debate why it fell: floods, earthquakes, invaders, or simply the turning of the river's path. Yet for the dreamer, Mohenjo-daro stands as a ghost of order, a city that shows how fragile civilization is, no matter how carefully laid its bricks. Picture its wide streets at dusk, children playing, lamps glowing, merchants bargaining. Then imagine it all fading in a breath, swallowed not by sea or sand but by the slow, steady hand of time. Beyond the Indus, across the oceans, another city rose, vast and mysterious: Teotihuacan, the city of the gods in Mexico, where pyramids rose higher than clouds, and the avenue of the dead stretched like a celestial road toward eternity. Imagine standing at the base of the Pyramid of the Sun, climbing steps that seem to reach heaven itself, while priests and crowds gather in ritual. The walls once bore colors, murals of jaguars, serpents, and stars, as though the whole city was an offering to the cosmos. And yet, long before Europeans arrived, Teotihuacan was already a ghost, its people gone, its name forgotten, its silence heavy as stone. When the Aztecs found it, they called it the City of the Gods, believing no human could have built it, only deities themselves. And so, it lingers in human imagination, not only as ruins but as proof that civilizations vanish, leaving mysteries no words can solve. From the vastness of Teotihuacan, let us slip into the green shadows of Southeast Asia, where Angkor Wat rises from jungle like a dream of stone. Built by the Khmer, it was once the largest city in the world, its temples spreading across forests, its towers shaped like lotus buds, its walls carved with gods and dancers frozen in eternal movement. Picture the city alive, priests chanting, kings processing in golden palanquins, dancers swaying in torchlight. Then, imagine the jungle creeping in, roots breaking stone, vines swallowing towers, until only birds and wind remain. Yet even in ruin, Angkor breathes beauty, as though its stones themselves remember glory and whisper it to the trees. In these cities, Babylon, Mohenjo-daro, Teotihuacan, Angkor, we glimpse not myths alone but truths, that every city, no matter how mighty, is built upon sand, river, or jungle, and all will fade. And yet, as with Atlantis, Lemuria, El Dorado, and Shambhala, they endure in memory, in story, in the deep dreaming of humanity. For though walls may fall, names may vanish, and streets may turn to dust, the dream of the city never dies, merely changes form, waiting for us to wander through it again, by firelight, by memory, by sleep. And so, as the night deepens, let the lost cities of earth surround you like guardians, their towers rising again in dream, their streets glowing with forgotten lanterns, their voices murmuring through the centuries, soft as lullabies carried by the wind. Through the veil of night we walk further, leaving behind the gardens of Babylon and the pyramids of Teotihuacan, until the desert wind guides us to Petra, the rose-red city, half as old as time, hidden among canyons where cliffs glow like embers beneath the sun. Imagine approaching through the sick, a narrow gorge where towering stone walls lean inward like guardians, until suddenly the treasury bursts into view, carved from living rock, its pillars gleaming in morning light. Once, caravans filled Petra's streets, incense and silk flowing in, spices and jewels flowing out, the heart of trade pulsing through its hidden valley. But when trade routes shifted and earthquakes struck, Petra emptied its temples, echoing only with silence, the desert reclaiming what human hands had shaped. Even now, at night, the city glows in dream, candles flickering against stone, as though the voices of its lost inhabitants whisper beneath the stars. From Petra, let us journey to the south of Africa, where the ruins of great Zimbabwe rise from the hills, stone walls curving like waves frozen in time. Imagine towers without mortar, built by hands that shaped stone into labyrinths of power and mystery. Once, the city thrived as a center of trade, ivory and gold flowing outward, stories of wealth spreading far and wide. Yet by the late medieval age, its people had moved on, its walls left empty, its secrets swallowed by wind. To those who found it later, it seemed impossible that such grandeur could have been made by local hands. And so myths grew, tales of foreigners, of Solomon, of phantoms, but the truth is simpler and greater. It was the work of those who lived there, a memory of power written in stone. As the desert and savanna keep silent watch, great Zimbabwe dreams of voices long gone, its walls rising like waves of memory against the horizon. Across the oceans in North America stood Cahokia, a city now forgotten by most, yet once teeming with tens of thousands of people along the Mississippi. Mounds rose toward the sky, great earthen pyramids aligned with stars, while plazas filled with dances and rituals, markets and gatherings. Imagine the hum of life in Cahokia, the drums, the firelight, the songs rising into the night air. And then, decline, came reasons uncertain, whether famine, disease, or the shifting of rivers. The mounds still stand, silent grass-covered hills, but beneath them lies the memory of a city that rivaled the great centers of the world. A reminder that history holds wonders beyond what we are taught, and deeper still into the jungles, we find the Maya cities, hidden beneath green canopy, temples and pyramids rising like mountains from endless forests. Tikucopan, Palenquich, filled with courts and palaces, carvings of gods and kings, murals of rituals and stars. The Maya measured the heavens, built calendars, wrote their stories upon stone, and then, suddenly, so many of their cities were left empty, swallowed by jungle silence. Imagine walking through towering trees until a temple breaks through the leaves, its steps crawling with roots, its carvings worn but alive, whispering tales of rulers and astronomers who once gazed upon the sky. In Petra, Great Zimbabwe, Cahokia, and the Maya world, we glimpsed the fragility of human greatness, but also its resilience. For though their streets may be empty, their stones remain, standing as guardians of memory. Each city reminds us that civilization blooms and withers, yet always leaves traces, like footprints in the sand, leading us onward to dream of what has been and what may come again. And as we drift deeper into night, these cities rise once more, glowing softly in the theater of dream, where no wall crumbles, no jungle invades, no silence conquers, but where people laugh, dance, and live eternally in the embrace of memory. In the last steps of this first journey, let us turn to cities that straddle the threshold between history and legend, where stones and stories blend so closely that one cannot tell where truth ends and dream begins. The first is Troy, a city once thought to be mere myth, sung by Homer in verses of war and love, of heroes and gods shaping the fate of men. For centuries, scholars doubted its existence, until in the late age explorers dug beneath the hills of Anatolia and found walls, gates, and ruins that matched the ancient tales. Imagine the city alive, Helen walking along high ramparts, Paris gazing upon her beauty, Hector striding out to battle, and beyond the walls, the endless clash of armies, the wooden horse dragged inside the gates, the fall of towers to fire. Whether wholly real or partly dream, Troy teaches us that stories carry truth even when facts are hidden, that myth itself is a kind of memory. And then we moved to Pompeii, a city frozen not by imagination but by fire and ash, when Mount Vesuvius erupted in fury and rained death upon its streets. In a single day, life ended, yet life was preserved. Loaves of bread in ovens, dogs chained at doors, people caught mid-motion, their gestures immortalized in stone-like ash. To walk in Pompeii today is to step through time, to see a city halted mid-breath, its voices silenced yet its presence eternal. Imagine markets bustling, fountains flowing, children laughing, then the roar of the mountain, the sky turned black, the heat unbearable and silence forever. Unlike other lost cities, Pompeii was not forgotten but preserved. A message from the earth that nothing is permanent, that life itself is as fragile as a candle in the wind. And finally, we step into a city that may never have stood in stone but has stood for centuries in human hope. Camelot, the realm of King Arthur, knights of the Round Table, and dreams of chivalry. Though archaeologists search and storytellers disagree, Camelot exists in the heart of those who long for justice, loyalty, and the shining promise of a better world. Imagine the great hall, a round table gleaming in torchlight, knights swearing oaths, a king raising his sword not for conquest, but for honor, and the faint sound of bells echoing in Avalon beyond the mists. Camelot may not be on any map, but it lives in the same place Atlantis does. In the same place as Shambhalan, the eternal chamber of imagination, where we dream of the world as it could be. And so, in Troy, Pompeii, and Camelot, we find three reflections of the lost city: the city rediscovered, the city preserved, and the city that never was but always will be in story. Together with Atlantis, Lemuria, El Dorado, Shambhala Babylon, Mohenjo-daro, Angkor Petra, Great Zimbabwe, Cahokia, and the Maya. They form a constellation across history and myth, each a star in the sky of memory. And as part one of our wandering closes, let us remember that lost cities are never truly lost, for they live in us, in story, in song, in dream. Close your eyes now, and walk their streets, hear their bells, see their towers rise in the soft glow of night, for in the silence of sleep, every city breathes again. In the quiet turning of night, we open the second part of our wandering, stepping away from the shimmering half-mythical realms of Atlantis and Camelot, into the more tangible yet equally mysterious cities that once rose proudly and then slipped into silence, forgotten until the earth itself revealed them again. Let us begin with the fabled city of Uba, known as Iram, of the Pillars in Arabian lore, a place said to stand in the great Rub el Khali desert, its towers gleaming like ivory in the sun, its markets flowing with incense and jewels. The Quran spoke of it as a city that grew arrogant, turning from the path of righteousness, and so it was struck down by divine hand, buried beneath the sands, leaving only wind to sing through its empty pillars. Imagine a caravan wandering the desert, sandstorm rising, and then, through the haze, shapes of towers half buried, as though ghosts of stone breathe still. Some say explorers glimpsed its ruins, others believe it never was. But like Atlantis, Uber lingers because it carries the truth of pride and fall, of wealth swallowed by silence, from the desert. Let us journey into the Mediterranean, where the city of Carthage once rivaled Rome, its harbors filled with fleets, its temples adorned in splendor, its people fierce in trade and war. Imagine the bustle of its markets: spices from Africa, silver from Spain, purple dye glowing in cloth, the cries of sailors setting out across endless waves. And then picture the fury of Rome, burning Carthage to ash, salting its fields, swearing it would never rise again. Yet ruins remain, scattered stones where once Hannibal dreamed of victory, and in their silence the memory of a city that dared to stand against empire. From Carthage we sail west to the Canary Islands, where tales whispered of the lost city of the Guanches, a people whose pyramids and legends hinted at a forgotten kingdom swallowed by Atlantic winds. Explorers carried back strange storystone, structures older than memory, mummies preserved in caves, whispers of a land that once thrived before waves and time erased its name. In the forests of Europe, too, legends spoke of Veneta, the sunken city off the Baltic coast, said to have been a place of immense wealth and arrogance, where bells rang with laughter and markets glittered with gold, until the sea rose in anger and drowned it all. Fishermen, even in later ages, swore they heard the bells of Veneta ringing beneath the waves, as though the city still lived in the deep. Imagine a fisherman leaning over his boat, hearing faint chimes carried by tides, his heart trembling with the sense that a city sleeps below. And so this second part begins with Uber buried in desert sands, Carthage burning in fire, Guanche cities lost to wind, and Veneta drowned beneath waves. Each reminds us that cities are fragile not only against time but against pride, war, and nature. They rise in splendor, they fall in silence, and yet they live again in story, each ruin a page in the eternal book of memory. As you drift deeper into the rhythm of this tale, let these cities surround you like echoes in dream, their voices soft, their lights faint, their streets waiting for your footsteps in the quiet of sleep. In the stillness of the night our path moves onward, leaving the sands of Uber and the drowned bells of Veneta, and we walk now into the heartlands of empires whose names once shook the earth, but whose cities now lie as ruins beneath dust and stone. Let us first step into Hattusa, the capital of the Hittites, a city of colossal gates where lions and sphinxes guarded the entrances, where tablets of law and treaty were carved upon clay, where kings once ruled with power that stretched across Anatolia. Imagine its great walls climbing over the hills, its temples filled with incense and offerings to storm gods, its people filling streets that wound between fortresses and sanctuaries. And then picture silence, the city abandoned, its stones weathered, its name nearly forgotten, until scholars unearthed its secrets in cuneiform. Hattusa, once fierce, now whispers only to the wind, reminding us that even empires carved in stone can vanish like smoke. From Hattusa we journey to Nineveh, the Assyrian capital, where walls stretched miles wide and gardens bloomed with splendor, where kings inscribed their victories in alabaster, and winged bulls with human faces stood sentinel. Imagine walking beneath those gates, hearing the echo of hooves and chariots, the cries of merchants, the chanting of priests. For centuries, Nineveh was the heart of power, feared across lands, until fire and conquest reduced it to ruin, its stones buried beneath earth. When later travelers came upon its mounds, they saw only hills, never guessing that beneath them lay palaces and libraries. And so Nineveh reminds us that history is often hidden beneath soil, waiting to breathe again. When hands dig deep enough, beyond Nineveh lies Palmyra, the desert jewel of Syria, a city of columns and arches that rose like a mirage against endless sands, crossroads of trade between Rome and Persia. Imagine its colonnades gleaming in the sunset, its temples towering, caravans arriving with silks, incense, spices, laughter filling the desert air. Palmyra was ruled once by Zenobia, a queen whose defiance nearly toppled Rome itself, but when her rebellion fell, so too did her city, until centuries later it stood as a ruin, hauntingly beautiful beneath desert stars. To walk among its fallen columns today is to hear whispers of glory, echoes of caravans that no longer come, and deeper into desert silence, we find Persepolis, the Persian capital, built by Darius and Xerxes as a vision of empire, terraces of stone adorned with carvings of tribute bearers from every land, stairways so wide they seemed built for gods themselves. Imagine banquets in golden halls, fire altars glowing, the wealth of an empire shimmering beneath the desert sun. And then, flames when Alexander's conquest reached it. Persepolis burned, its glory reduced to smoke, leaving only fragments to tell of its majesty. Hattusa, Nineveh, Palmyra, Persepolis, all fallen, all reminders that no matter how high walls rise or how wide empires stretch, time waits with patience. And yet in dream, they live again, gates opening, columns rising, streets alive with voices. As the night deepens, let their ruins become pathways in your sleep, carrying you gently across centuries, where every stone glows with memory, and every silence hums with life unseen. In the gentle drift of night, our steps carry us onward, from the fallen gates of Persepolis, to cities that thrived, not in vast conquest alone but in the quiet strength of trade, faith, and learning. Their memory scattered now like dust upon caravan roads. Let us walk first into Timbuktu, the jewel of Mali, once shimmering with scholarship and gold, where manuscripts filled libraries, mosques rose with earthen towers, and caravans brought salt across the desert in endless lines of camels. Imagine sitting within its mud brick walls as scholars debate the stars, poets write verses of wisdom, traders weigh nuggets of gold against sacks of grain, and the muezzin's call echoes into the Sahara night. To the outside world it became legend, a city of unimaginable riches, a word whispered with awe. But centuries later, as sands shifted and empires fell, its greatness waned, though its spirit endures in manuscripts that still hold the voices of its scholars. From Timbuktu let us wander to Ani, the city of 1,001 churches, once the capital of Armenia, its skyline bristling with domes and towers, its streets alive with pilgrims and kings. Imagine the ringing of countless bells, markets bustling with merchants, silk from the east, wine from the valleys, prayers rising into the morning air. Then came invasions, earthquakes, abandonment, until Ani stood as a silent shell upon the steppe, its churches open to the sky, their stones kissed by wind and snow. To stand in Ani now is to feel the ache of memory, beauty lingering even in ruin. From Ani our path winds along the Silk Road, where cities like Samarkand and Merv flourished, crossroads where east and west embraced, their bazaars glittering with jade, spices, silk, and stories carried by countless tongues. Imagine Samarkand's blue domes sparkling like jewels in sunlight, its mosaics reflecting heavens, poets singing in courtyards as caravans arrived from China, Persia, and Byzantium. Merv, once called the Queen of the World, brimmed with canals, libraries, mosques, and palaces, but wars and fire reduced it to ashes, leaving little but whispers. Still, to the medieval heart, these cities were the very center of wonder, places that proved the world was wide and filled with marvels. Picture a lone traveler resting beside a caravan road, watching lamps glow in Samarkand's night, the hum of languages blending like a lullaby. From Timbuktu's desert towers to Ani's fallen churches, from Samarkandi's domes to Merv's vanished palaces, these cities remind us that learning, trade, and spirit can be as mighty as armies, but also as fragile, dissolving in the tide of time. Yet, in dream they shine again, their streets filled with light, their scholars teaching beneath stars, their merchants calling out across markets. As your eyes grow heavy, let their voices guide you into sleep, carrying the rhythm of footsteps across sand and stone, until every road becomes a thread leading you deeper into the fabric of memory. In the last stretch of this second part, our journey carries us not across deserts and steppe alone, but toward the seas themselves, where waves guard the memory of lands and islands spoken of in hushed voices, half believed, half dreamed. Sailors, returning to medieval harbors, told of Hybrazil, a phantom island said to rise from the Atlantic once every 7 years, glowing like a jewel upon the horizon before sinking again into mist. Imagine fishermen at dawn, glimpsing a green shore where no chart marks land, sunlight gleaming on towers, birds wheeling above, and then, as they row closer, fog swallows it whole, leaving only endless sea. To some it was paradise, to others, enchantment, but all agreed it was a promise that somewhere out there lay a world unseen. Beyond the western seas, tales spread of Antillia, the island of the 7 cities, said to have been founded by bishops fleeing across the ocean with their people, carrying books, bells, and holy relics, building a haven that no conqueror could reach. After, imagine its chapels glowing with candlelight, its bells ringing across waves, its people safe in exile, their city thriving while the world beyond forgot. Whether real or not, the story fed the medieval longing that lands of refuge and wonder still lay hidden, waiting for seekers brave enough to sail beyond the map's edge. Closer to northern shores, whispers told of Lyoness, a land once stretching between Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, a kingdom of fertile fields, golden halls, and bright villages, lost in a single night. When the sea rose in fury, fishermen swore they heard church bells toll beneath the waves, and divers claimed to glimpse walls and streets through the water. Imagine standing upon a cliff, hearing the sea boom against rocks, and for an instant believing you see rooftops far below, shimmering in the blue. Such stories lingered because they carried both warning and comfort that the sea can take but also preserve, keeping memories safe beneath its surface. And even within Europe itself, legends told of sunken towns beneath lakes and rivers, swallowed for their arrogance or sin, their bells still tolling at night, their lights glowing faintly in the depths. These tales reminded every listener that cities, no matter how grand, are fragile, that pride leads to ruin, and that time, whether in sand, fire, or water, reclaims all. And yet, the wonder endures, for in Hybrazil, in Antillia, in Lyoness, we hear the echo of the same longing that led us to Atlantis and Shambhala, yearning for places just out of reach, where beauty, peace, and mystery live forever. And so, as part 2 closes, let us hold these cities in our hearts, not as ruins alone, but as dreams alive within the deep. Close your eyes now and drift, for in the silence of sleep, the sea calms, the mists part, and the bells of lost cities ring once more, guiding us gently into the next horizon. In the hush of the third part of our wandering, we step into the shadows where the line between legend and memory grows thin, where cities rise not only from earth and stone but also from visions, prophecies, and the restless spirit of travelers who swore they had seen marvels no map recorded. Let us begin with ease. The city said to have stood upon the coast of Brittany, a jewel of towers and canals built lower than the sea itself, protected only by great gates. Its beauty was unmatched, paved with marble, churches rising like white sails, markets rich with gold and pearls. Yet pride and sin entered its heart, and one fateful night the gates were opened, whether by accident or design, and the ocean swept in with fury, drowning the city forever. Fishermen told of hearing its bells beneath the waves, of seeing spires shimmer in moonlight just below the surface, a reminder that beauty without humility cannot endure. From the coasts of France we journey eastward to the hidden city of Tranquil in Cappadocia, a labyrinth carved beneath the earth itself. Imagine walking narrow tunnels where entire communities lived, stables, kitchens, churches, and wells, stretching down into stone, safe from war above. To those who later discovered it, Tranquil seemed another world, a city of silence and darkness, yet also of resilience. It was not lost by destruction but by concealment, hidden so deeply that centuries passed before its secrets returned to light. Beyond the mountains we come to Ani's forgotten kin, the ghost city of Van in eastern Anatolia, where Eurasian kings once ruled, fortresses clinging to cliffs above a vast lake. Picture its citadels glowing in torchlight, its halls filled with feasts and warriors, its temples echoing with prayer, until war and time reduced it to rubble. Now its stones lie quiet, watched only by waterbirds and the sigh of wind across the lake. And further still, toward the Black Sea, we find tales of Kitezh, the invisible city of Russia, said to have sunk into the waters of Lake Svetloyer. Invaders approached, vanishing to protect itself, but not destroyed. Pilgrims who walk its shores at dawn speak of hearing bells ringing from beneath, of lights moving through the depths, as if the city still lives in divine secrecy. Imagine kneeling by the water as ripples glow faintly, sensing a presence just beyond sight, holy and untouchable. In ease drowned by sea, Tranquil hidden in earth, Van crumbled to dust, and Kitezh preserved beneath water, we glimpse the many ways a city may be lost, by sin, by secrecy, by conquest, by miracle. And yet each remains alive in story, each reminding us that what vanishes from the eye may live forever in memory. As the third part begins, let their bells and whispers guide us, carrying us deeper into dream, where even ruins breathe, and where every city, no matter how hidden, waits to rise again in the imagination of those who remember. In the soft unfolding of night, we wander further into jungles thick with vines and mist, where cities lie not beneath the waves or sands but beneath canopies of green, their stones embraced by roots, their towers hidden by leaves, their silence filled with the hum of unseen creatures. Let us step first into Machu Picchu, the Incan citadel perched high in the Andes, a city in the clouds where terraces climb like stairways to heaven and temples align with the sun. Imagine priests watching the dawn light strike the stone, believing the city itself bound the sun to the earth, while farmers tended fields carved from mountainsides. For centuries, Machu Picchu was forgotten to the outside world, its walls swallowed by jungle, until explorers stumbled upon it again, marveling at its terraces, fountains, and stairways, each stone fitted with perfect care. In its silence, we hear both mystery and resilience, the echo of a people who mastered mountains and time. From Machu Picchu we journey into the forests of Guatemala, where Tikal rises with pyramids taller than trees, its temples once gleaming in stucco and paint, its plazas alive with kings, priests, and astronomers who measured the heavens. Imagine standing atop temple, for as dawn breaks, mists rolling through jungle, howler monkeys calling below, and the city stretching endlessly across green horizons. Then imagine silence, the plazas empty, the ball courts abandoned, the temples guarded only by ceiba trees. Tikal was left behind, but its stones remain, whispering of a civilization that knew the stars better than we know ourselves. And deeper still, through rivers and vines. Tales whisper of cities still unseen. Te Ciudad Blanca, the white city of Honduras, said to shine with pale walls and hidden valleys, its temples covered by jungle but glowing faintly when moonlight falls. Explorers swore they found fragments, mounds, carved stones, glimpses of grandeur half buried by roots. To the people, it was both memory and legend, a city of wealth and gods, waiting in secrecy. Imagine wandering a dense jungle path, the air thick with heat and insects, when suddenly, half hidden by vines, a wall of white stone gleams like bone, silent, eternal. Such stories remind us that not all lost cities are truly gone some wait. In silence, cloaked by earth and forest, breathing softly until eyes brave enough seek them again. In Machu Picchu shining in the clouds, in Tikal rising through the jungle, in the whispered white city, we see how nature conceals and protects, turning ruins into temples of silence, sanctuaries of memory. And as the night deepens, let the song of cicadas and the breath of forests guide your dream. For in sleep the jungle parts, the cities rise, and their people walk once more beneath the stars. In the drifting hush of dream we journey deeper into the vast expanse of oceans and forests, where islands hold secrets and stones bear the memory of forgotten hands, where entire cities were raised with purpose only to sink into silence. Let us walk first through Copan, one of the shining jewels of the Maya world. Its stairways carved with hieroglyphs, its plazas filled with stelae that rose like storytellers in stone, each figure carved with kings and gods, each glyph recording triumphs and rituals. Imagine a scribe chiseling by torchlight, his hands steady as he carves centuries into stone, believing that memory itself could never die. And then picture the jungle creeping in, swallowing his work, leaving parrots and vines to guard the ruins. Copan whispers still of rulers who measured time in cycles greater than lifetimes, and of a city that fell into silence even as its carvings endured. From the forests we drift eastward, across the sea, to the Pacific where Non-Matal lies, a city built upon coral reefs off the island of Pohnpei, sometimes called the Venice of the Pacific. Imagine canals flowing between basalt walls, great slabs of stone stacked into tombs and temples, the waters glowing faintly beneath the moon as priests and chiefs performed rites. No one knows how such stones were moved across sea and reef, and so legend tells of magic, of giants, of spirits who built the city overnight. Now its canals are still, mangroves creeping through its ruins, but in dream it glows, a city afloat, half of earth, half of water, as though balanced between worlds. Further still we sail to Rapa Nui, Easter Island, where the Moai statues rise, silent faces gazing inland, guardians of a people whose city was not walls or towers, but the land itself. Imagine the islanders carving colossal heads from volcanic stone, moving them across miles, setting them upon platforms where they still stand, silent yet filled with presence. The city of Rapa Nui was carved not into stone streets, but into memory, its people dwindling under strain of resources, yet leaving behind a landscape so haunting it feels alive. And across the Pacific, whispers tell of Lemuria once more, a lost continent said to lie beneath these waves, home of vanished peoples whose echoes might still drift in coral and current. Copan in its jungle, Non-Matal upon its reefs, Rapa Nui, with its guardians Lemuria beneath the Seol, remind us that cities are more than walls. They are prayers, songs, dreams, given shape in stone and water, always fragile, yet always enduring in memory. And as the night deepens, let the surf and wind carry you gently into rest. For in dream you may walk these places again, their carvings glowing, their canals flowing, their statues whispering softly as though greeting an old friend. In the soft turning of the dream we come now to the oldest stones, the places where the first cities rose, where walls were not only defenses but prayers carved into earth, where life itself gathered in circles that would shape all ages to come. Let us step first into Cusco, the navel of the Incan world, a city laid out in the form of a puma, its stones fitted with such precision that even today they stand unbroken, their joints so perfect a knife cannot pass between them. Imagine the streets filled with music and color, priests ascending to temples gilded in sunlight, and the great fortress of Sacsayhuaman rising above the city like a crown of stone. To the Incas, Cusco was the center of the universe, but when conquest came, fire and steel changed it forever, leaving ruins and echoes of a greatness not erased but hidden within memory. From the Andes we drift to the Aegean, where Mycenae once stood, its lion gate still guarding the entrance to a world of warriors and kings. Imagine the echo of shields upon stone, the chanting of bards who sang of Agamemnon and Troy, the gold masks of rulers gleaming in firelight, treasures buried with the dead so they might shine in eternity. Mycenae fell, its palaces broken, but its myths endured, and in those myths it lived on, a city never entirely gone. And older still is Jericho, the ancient city upon the Jordan plain, where walls rose thousands of years before most of history began. Imagine the early farmers gathering in its squares, fires glowing against stone towers, people who shaped earth into permanence, who taught the world that community could last. Jericho fell and rose again countless times, destroyed and rebuilt, yet never erased, its soil a palimpsest of human life itself. And beneath all of these names lie cities still older, lost to time yet hinted at in fragments: Gagui Tepe with its carved pillars older than memory, Catalyuk with its houses clustered like honeycomb. These are not only ruins but the breath of humanity's earliest dreams, the first steps toward belonging, the first attempts to carve eternity into stone. In Cusco, Mycenae, Jericho, and the cities before history, we see that to build is to hope. To raise walls is to say we believe life can last. And though every city falls, the act of building is itself immortal, for its memory flows forward like a river, shaping all who come after. And so, as the first chunk of this third part closes, let us rest with these ancient walls surrounding us like guardians, their silence no longer frightening but comforting, as though the oldest cities watch over our sleep, whispering that nothing is ever truly lost, only waiting to be found again in dream. In the deepening hush of the third part's second journey, we turn our steps not only toward ruins upon the earth but toward those cities woven with prophecy, visions, and the trembling of the human heart when it gazes into the future. For in the medieval mind, cities were never merely stoned, they were signs, omens, reflections of heaven or of doom. Let us begin with the New Jerusalem, the city of revelation, described in scripture as descending from heaven itself. Walls of jasper, gates of pearl, streets of gold, so pure they gleam like glass. Imagine its towers shimmering with unearthly light, angels guarding its gates. A city not built by men but by the hand of God, eternal, incorruptible. To medieval listeners, New Jerusalem was not simply promise, it was destiny. The final city where all souls would gather at the end of time. In its glow, they saw hope against the shadows of their own fragile towns. From that heavenly vision, we descend into tales of earthly prophecy, where some spoke of a city to come called Jerusalem of the North, believed to rise in distant lands, as a reflection of the holy city, a sign that Christendom stretched farther than known maps. Imagine a weary pilgrim hearing whispers of such a place, his heart swelling at the thought that heaven might reveal itself in unexpected corners of the earth. And alongside visions of promise came visions of warning, of cities that foretold destruction. Medieval chronicles told of Constantinople as both a jewel and a prophecy, a city fated to fall though it seemed eternal, its domes gleaming like heaven's own lanterns, its markets brimming with treasures from east and west. To imagine its fall was to imagine the shaking of the world. And so prophets spoke of its fate with trembling voices, their words echoing like thunder across centuries. Picture standing beneath the dome of Hagia Sophia, golden light spilling from mosaics, and hearing a priest whisper that one day the city will vanish, its glory taken by conquerors, its beauty reduced to memory. Even as people prayed, they felt the weight of prophecy upon its walls. From Constantinople we wander to Rome, the eternal city, which in the medieval mind was both promise and peril. Some said it would stand until the world's end, that as long as Rome endured, so too would time itself. Others said its fall would mark the final trumpet. Imagine walking through the Forum, broken columns casting long shadows, while monks chant of eternity, travelers speak of doom, and every ruin feels like a symbol written upon the earth by unseen hands. And yet beyond prophecy of ruin came visions of hidden cities of refuge, like the fabled city beneath the mountain, a place where a righteous king sleeps with his knights, awaiting the call to return when the world falters. To some, it was Frederick Barbarossa beneath Kefauver, to others, Arthur in Avalon, but always the story carried the same hope, that the city is not gone but waiting, concealed, ready to rise again when needed. Imagine mountains glowing at dusk, a shepherd swearing he sees faint lights flickering from caves, as though the city breathes within the stone, waiting for the hour of destiny. In the New Jerusalem above, Constantinople and Rome upon the earth, and hidden cities beneath mountains. We glimpse the many faces of prophecy, hope of salvation, fear of doom, dream of return. Each city was more than stone, it was a mirror of faith, showing people not only where they lived, but where they longed to be, where they feared they might end. And so, as this block closes, let us rest with their visions shimmering around us. Golden gates, broken columns, mountain caverns glowing faintly. Close your eyes and drift, for, in dream, the new Jerusalem descends. Constantinople shines, Rome breathes with eternity, and the hidden cities wait in silence, watching over the sleepers who dare to dream of them. In the soft dark of night, we move now into the shadowed realms of memory, where cities are not only lost but cursed, where their stories are carried not as gentle nostalgia but as warnings carved in fire and flood. For, in the medieval imagination, the earth itself spoke through ruins, telling humanity that pride, sin, and arrogance always bring the same end. Let us step first into Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities of the plain, where life once glittered with wealth and indulgence, but whose cries of wickedness rose so high that fire rained from the heavens. Imagine their streets at dusk, lamps glowing, laughter ringing, and then the sudden blaze of judgment, towers collapsing, rivers boiling into steam, and all that remained was silence and salt. For centuries, pilgrims pointed to the Dead Sea's desolate shores and whispered that smoke still lingered above the ruins, proof that God's wrath could never be forgotten. From those plains, let us wander northward to the tale of Helak, the Greek city said to have been swallowed by the sea in a single night. Once its temples honored Poseidon, once its harbor was filled with ships. But when arrogance grew, the earth trembled, waves rolled in, and Helak sank, its statues and homes buried beneath the gulf. Fishermen swore that even centuries later, they could see columns beneath the waters, shimmering faintly when the sun struck. Imagine standing upon a cliff at twilight, gazing into the sea, and believing you see streets lying silent below the waves. From Greece, our steps take us toward Mesopotamia, where whispers told of cities cursed by gods, like Eridu or Akkad, once centers of power, left desolate by drought and invasion. Imagine canals drying, fields withering, walls collapsing into dust as the river itself seemed to abandon them. To the medieval ear, such stories were reminders that when people forgot gratitude, when they turned from the divine, the land itself rebelled, and their homes became wastelands. In Northern Europe, too, legends told of cursed towns, villages that rang with arrogance until floodwaters swept them away. One such tale was of Tinohelig in Wales, a land of halls and towers swallowed by the sea because its prince refused to heed warnings. On stormy nights, sailors swore they heard bells tolling beneath the waves, the ghosts of a city ringing in sorrow. Imagine rowing through fog, hearing faint chimes that seemed to come not from the air but from the deep, as though the drowned still call out. Further east, legends of fiery punishment endured in the stories of Agada, a city whose kings once claimed to control the heavens. When arrogance grew, the gods unleashed storms of dust and fire, leaving its palaces in ruin, its name a whisper carried only by the desert wind. Each of these cursed cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, in fire, Helak in water, Akkad in dust, Tinohelig in waves, reminded listeners that no city, no matter how rich, stands beyond the reach of time or the weight of its own choices. To hear their tales was to hear a sermon, that all towers will fall if their foundations are not built upon humility. And yet even in their doom, a strange comfort lingers, for the earth remembers, and their stories survive, carried like warnings through generations. As you drift deeper into sleep, let their echoes pass softly, not as terror but as gentle caution, teaching that what is lost can still guide us, and that every fall is also a memory that endures. Close your eyes, for the bells of sunken cities toll faintly in dream, and their light flickers one last time before fading into peace. In the flowing quiet of dream, we turn now toward cities not of ruin or fire but of mystery, places said to lie beneath the earth or at the edges of the map, their very existence a question whispered in wonder. Among these is Agartha, the hidden realm said to stretch in vast halls beneath mountain, a kingdom of eternal light where wise rulers dwell, unseen yet guiding the fate of nations. Imagine descending into caverns not of darkness but of radiance, rivers glowing with inner fire, palaces carved in crystal, voices chanting in harmony, as though the earth itself were alive with song. To the medieval mind, such a place spoke of hidden wisdom, a refuge beyond war and famine, waiting for those pure enough to find its gates. And northward in legend lay Thule, the land beyond the known seas, where icy cliffs gleamed beneath endless sun, and strange peoples lived at the edge of the world. Greek sailors wrote of it, medieval monks whispered of it. And for centuries Thule was both map and mystery, a place both real and imagined, where the horizon touched eternity. Picture standing upon a cliff of frost, watching seas shimmer with lights of aurora, feeling you have reached the end of earth, the doorstep of heaven. Alongside these wonders we find tales of Shambhala told again, not only as mountain kingdom, but as inner sanctuary, a city that reveals itself not to eyes but to hearts. Pilgrims swore that wandering the Himalayas, they felt its presence just beyond sight, a vibration in the air, a whisper in the snow, a promise of a city untouched by sorrow. And in the western seas, stories told of Avalon, not only as Arthur's resting place but as a city of orchards and eternal youth, its towers hidden behind mist, its fields blooming with blossoms that never fade. Imagine drifting through fog upon a boat, the sound of bells faint, and then emerging into a land of green meadows and shining halls where no sickness comes, no time devours. These cities, Agartha beneath, Thule beyond, Shambhala within, Avalon across the waves, were never meant to be found with footsteps alone. They were symbols, mirrors of the longing within the human heart, proof that people dream not only of what is lost, but of what might still be waiting. And though no explorer mapped them, no stone records them, their stories endure, glowing softly as lanterns in the imagination. As this block draws to rest, let their names linger upon the edge of sleep. Agartha, Thule, Shambhala, Avalon, each a gate to peace, each a promise that even in a world of ruins, the dream of a city untouched endures. Close your eyes and let those gates open within you, for in sleep you may walk them freely, their streets lined with light, their towers rising against horizons no waking eye has ever seen. In the final steps of this third wandering we gather the last of the hidden cities, those spoken of as whispers on the wind, half prayer, half dream, their names echoing through centuries, as if they were not places upon maps, but reflections of the soul itself. Among them is the city of brass, told of in Arabic tales, a place of golden walls and gates that shone brighter than the sun, where men once sought eternal life and treasures beyond imagining, only to find silence and emptiness when they entered. Imagine travelers crossing a vast desert, sand burning beneath their feet, until towers of shining metal rise on the horizon, but within the gates no voice greets them, only statues frozen in sorrow, a city left as warning rather than gift. To the medieval listener, such a city was not only marvel but moral, teaching that wealth without humility leaves only hollowness. Across northern Europe, too, whispers told of Veneta and Rungholt, drowned beneath waves, yet still heard in the tolling of bells beneath the sea. Reminders that arrogance invites the ocean's embrace. Imagine storm winds howling across a coast, waves smashing against cliffs, and fishermen swearing they see rooftops glimmer beneath foam, the last glances of a city swallowed whole. And further still, legends spoke of Ophir, the biblical land of gold, its cities glittering with wealth carried upon Solomon's ships. Some said it lay in Africa, others in Arabia, some in far India, but wherever it was, Ophir shimmered as the archetype of abundance lost, a place always sought yet never truly found, a reminder that desire itself can build cities in the mind as real as any stone. There were also tales of the 7 cities of gold in the New World, imagined by explorers who dreamed of shining towers across deserts, their streets paved in treasure. No such cities were found, yet their myth led men into wilderness and suffering, driven onward by the eternal human hunger for paradise in stone. And then, in softer whispers, pilgrims spoke of towns that sank into lakes, not by wrath but by mystery, their bells heard on holy nights, their lights glowing beneath water, as though sanctuaries still prayed below. To the medieval soul, these were not curses but signs that the sacred cannot be erased, only hidden, waiting for faith to uncover it once more. The city of brass in its gleaming silence, Veneta and Rungholt in their watery graves, Ophir and the 7 cities glowing with gold and imagination, the drowned chapels of lakes shimmering in legend tells us that lost cities are more than ruins. They are lessons written into story, guiding humanity with both caution and hope. And as the third part of our wandering closes, let us rest in the gentle truth that whether buried by sand, swallowed by sea, or hidden within mountains, these cities endure in memory and dream. Close your eyes now and let them rise softly before you, towers gleaming, bells ringing, waters glowing. For in sleep every city is found again, and every street leads not to ruin but to peace. In the quiet beginning of our final part, we step gently into the last horizon of our wandering, gathering not only the ruins and whispers of forgotten cities, but also the truths they have carried across time. For the story of lost cities is not only about stone and silence, but about the human heart that builds, dreams, and remembers. Let us begin this last journey with Babylon, the city of wonders, whose walls were said to be so vast that you could ride upon them, whose hanging gardens glimmered as one of the world's marvels, terraces rising with flowing water and green life above the desert. Imagine walking beneath its gates, lions carved upon blue tiles of glazed brick, the air heavy with incense, voices chanting in temples. Babylon became a symbol not only of power but of longing, of the height of human ambition and the peril of arrogance. Some saw it as paradise, others as pride, and so its ruins became both warning and memory, carried forward by every storyteller who spoke its name. From Babylon we drift to Petra, the rose-red city carved into cliffs, its facades glowing like fire at sunset. Imagine caravans winding through the Sikh, a narrow canyon that opens suddenly into grandeur. Temples and tombs carved straight from stone, their columns rising as though the mountain itself were alive. Once Petra thrived as a hub of trade, water flowing through hidden channels, markets filled with incense, jewels, and silk. And then silence came, the caravans choosing new routes, the city fading into cliffs. For centuries it lay hidden until rediscovered, a vision too beautiful to believe real. To walk Petra, even in dream, is to feel awe, as if the earth itself chose to be an artist. From Petra, we wander further to Teotihuacan, the city of the gods in Mexico, where pyramids rise like mountains, the avenue of the dead stretching wide beneath the sky. Imagine priests ascending the pyramid of the sun, fires burning, chants echoing, crowds gathering in plazas vast as seas. No one knows who built Teotihuacan or why it fell, only that its stones remained so powerful that later civilizations treated it as holy ground, believing gods themselves had once lived there. In this way it became both ruin and sanctuary, silence and eternity. And then, across the world, we return to Angkor, the great city in Cambodia, where towers rose like lotus blossoms, where moats and causeways reflected heavens and water, where stone walls told stories of gods and kings in endless carvings. Imagine dawn breaking upon Angkor Wat, its silhouette glowing as birds rise in flocks, the jungle sighing softly around it. Angkor too fell silent, swallowed by roots and rain, but in ruin it became no less sacred, as if eternity itself had claimed it. Babylon, Petra, Teotihuacan, Angkor all remind us that every city, no matter how vast, is fragile, yet every city, no matter how lost, is eternal in memory. And as this final part opens, let us carry them gently, not as ruins of sorrow but as treasures of dream. Close your eyes, for their towers still gleam, their bells still ring, their plazas still fill with voices, if not in waking world, then surely in the world of sleep, where every city waits for those who wander. In the flowing quiet of this last part, we turn our steps eastward, into the vast lands of Asia, where empires once shone like jewels, and where cities rose in majesty only to be swallowed by war, jungle, or silence. Let us begin with Ayut in Thailand, a city of rivers and temples, whose gilded palaces dazzled travelers, whose markets welcomed ships from China, Japan, Persia, and Europe, a place where cultures met and thrived together. Imagine walking through its streets, golden stupas rising above the water, elephants carrying kings through grand processions, monks chanting in halls filled with incense. Ayutthaya was called the Venice of the East, a city of bridges and canals, but when fire and armies came in the 18th century, its splendor burned, leaving behind ruins that today glow like embers against twilight. From there we journeyed to Vijayanagara in India, the city of victory, where towering gopurams rose above temples, where markets brimmed with jewels and spices, where art and devotion breathed in every stone. Imagine pilgrims walking toward the Virupaksha temple, music and chanting echoing in the air, processions winding through streets wide enough for armies. Vijayanagara was once said to rival Rome in wealth and size, yet war reduced it to a ghost, its palaces shattered, its bazaars silent. Still, even in ruin, its temples endure, carved with stories that seem to breathe beneath the sun. Beyond India, we drift into the forests of Cambodia and Laos, where forgotten capitals like Sukhothai and Champa once shone with learning and art. Imagine lotus ponds reflecting starlight, stone towers rising with delicate carvings, kings seated upon thrones, as poets recited verses and dancers moved like flowing rivers. When their time passed, these cities fell to silence, roots curling through walls, water covering roads, but their memory survived in songs, in ruins, in the breath of legend. And across the Himalayas we find Lhasa, the forbidden city of Tibet, where monasteries gleamed with golden roofs, where pilgrims circled shrines, spinning prayer wheels that whispered across the mountains. To many it seemed a city beyond reach, half real, half mystical, as though carved upon the edge of heaven. Even as politics and change altered it, the dream of Lhasa endured, glowing in the imagination as a city of pure spirit. Ayutthaya, Vijayanagara, Sukhothai, Kampa, Lhasa, each shone like stars across Asia's sky. Each fell into silence, yet each remains alive in memory, teaching us that greatness is never truly lost. As you drift deeper into rest, let their temples and towers rise around you, golden roofs gleaming, bells ringing in soft wind, waters reflecting firelight, until you walk once more through streets that never truly died. For in the silence of dream, all cities breathe again, eternal and waiting. In the deepening quiet of our journey, we now turn toward Africa, a land whose earth has cradled some of humanity's oldest dreams, and where cities once thrived in majesty, their memory later cloaked in silence. Let us first walk through the stone walls of Great Zimbabwe, a city whose towering enclosures rose without mortar, circles of granite fitted with such care they still stand centuries later. Imagine its courts alive with kings and queens, its people trading gold and ivory with lands as distant as Arabia and China, its towers gleaming in the morning sun, a city of skill and pride. For a time, outsiders could not believe that Africans themselves had built such a place, but the stones tell the truth, their patterns carved with wisdom and strength. From Zimbabwe we wander westward to Benin, whose royal city astonished travelers with its vast earth walls, avenues stretching wide, and bronze castings of kings and warriors. Imagine walking through its gates, drums beating, processions of nobles moving through palaces adorned with ivory and brass, the art of a people who carved their history into metal that still glows today. But when conquest came, its treasures were plundered, its walls broken. Yet the memory of Benin's glory could not be erased, for its bronzes carried its story into eternity. Further north we drift into the Sahara, where tales whisper of the lost city of Zerzura, a white city hidden in desert valleys, its gates guarded by mysterious keepers, its wells flowing with pure water. Explorers sought it, nomads spoke of it, but always it remained elusive, as though meant to live only in the imagination. Picture a caravan trudging across endless dunes, mirages shimmering, and suddenly towers pale as bone glimmer upon the horizon before fading back into sand. And along the coasts, whispers endured of Carthage reborn, of cities of gold hidden within deserts, of kingdoms whose splendor still lay waiting beneath dust. In Ethiopia too, legends told of Aksum, the city of obelisks and kings, where the Ark of the Covenant was said to rest, where trade once brought riches from across the Red Sea. Imagine tall stelae piercing the sky, markets alive with voices in many tongues, incense burning in sanctuaries, the hum of prayer blending with the sound of commerce. Though its empire faded, Aksum's stones remain like guardians, silent yet eternal. Great Zimbabwe with its towers, Benin with its bronzes, Zerzura hidden in the sands, Aksum crowned with still each tells us that Africa's heart beats with stories as vast and enduring as any land upon earth. And as you drift deeper into rest, let their drums, their chants, their winds through stone walls guide you gently. For in dream, these cities rise again, their gates open, their markets glow, and their people walk once more beneath the stars. In the soft turning of this final journey, we cross once more into the vast lands of the Americas, where ancient cities rose from rivers, plains, and cliffs, their stones still humming with the voices of ancestors, their memory bound to the earth, like roots that never die. Let us begin with Cahokia, the great mound city of North America, where earthen pyramids rose above the Mississippi plains, where plazas echoed with ceremonies, and where thousands gathered in rhythms of trade, ritual, and life. Imagine climbing Monk's Mound at dawn, drums beating, the horizon glowing red, smoke curling from countless fires as the city awakens, its people moving like waves across the earth. For centuries, Cahokia thrived, larger than many European capitals, yet it faded into silence, its mounds left as silent guardians, still standing as testimony to what once was. From there, we drift west to the cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde, where the ancestral pueblones carved homes into stone, high above valleys, their kivas hidden in shadows, their ladders climbing into sky. Imagine the sound of voices rising in prayer within circles of stone, the laughter of children echoing across canyons, the glow of firelight upon walls. Then imagine silence, the dwellings abandoned, their secrets carried only by wind, yet still they stand, as if waiting for footsteps to return. Further south, the legend of El Dorado shimmers, not as a single city, but as a dream of gold, of lakes glittering with offerings, of kings clothed in dust of precious metal. Explorers searched jungles and rivers, chasing whispers, and though they found no golden city, their quest itself built El Dorado into eternity, a city of desire, more imagined than real, yet powerful enough to move armies and fleets. Imagine the reflection of sun upon river water, a vision of towers gleaming in gold, fading into mist even as one reaches for it. And deeper in the forests lie cities like Chanchan in Peru, once the largest adobe city in the world, its labyrinthine walls stretching for miles, its plazas alive with artisans and rulers. Imagine its walls painted in colors now lost, its storerooms filled with riches, its streets echoing with voices, until conquest and time reduced it to clay. Still, even in ruin, its silence feels alive, as though the city remembers its own greatness. Cahokia with its mounds, Mesa Verde with its cliffs, El Dorado glowing in legend, Chanchan whispering in adobe awe, remind us that the Americas were not only lands of wilderness, but of civilizations as vast and profound as any upon earth. And as you close your eyes, let the beat of drums, the whisper of rivers, and the glow of forgotten fires carry you. For in dream, the mounds rise again, the cliff dwellings fill with life, the golden city shines, and every street welcomes you gently home. In this quiet nearing of our journey's end, we gather together the scattered voices of all the cities. We have wandered, those drowned in sea, those buried in sand, those hidden in forest, those carved into stone, and those that lived only in the golden fabric of story. For across continents and centuries, every people has carried the same dream, that to build is to defy time, and to remember is to make what is lost live again. Think of Atlantis rising and sinking in the ocean's heart, of Shambhala hidden among snowy peaks, of Uber swallowed by desert winds, of Babylon glowing with gates of blue, of Machu Picchu perched above the clouds, of Angkor shimmering beneath jungle vines. Each city, whether fact or legend, reflects the same truth that human beings have always sought to carve eternity into the earth. Imagine walking a single street where all these places meet. The walls of Petra glowing beside the domes of Samarkand, the mounds of Cahokia rising near the terraces of Peru, the bells of Vineta ringing beneath waves while monks in Lhasa chant above the clouds. It is not a city of stone but of memory, where every ruin becomes whole, every silence filled with voices once more. And in this great imagined city we see ourselves, for we too build, we too dream, we too leave behind traces, for those who will come after. Perhaps this is why the stories of lost cities never fade. They are mirrors, reminding us that our lives, too, are part of a greater tapestry, that nothing truly vanishes so long as it is remembered. As night deepens, let this imagined city rise within you, its towers glowing softly, its streets filled with gentle light. Walk slowly through its gates, for they are open to all who seek them. Listen to the bells, the drums, the chants, the laughter, the footsteps of countless generations. Here, in this city of dream, nothing is ruined, nothing is lost, everything endures. And as your eyes grow heavy, let this place cradle you, reminding you that even in endings there is continuity, and that every silence holds a promise that the story will go on. Rest now, for the city waits in peace, eternal within you. In the final stillness of our wandering, we come to the last gates, the soft closing of a journey that has carried us across oceans and deserts, mountains and forests, into the memory of cities that lived and fell, dreamed and endured. This last path is not toward a single place, but toward the meaning behind them all, for every story of a lost city is a reflection of ourselves, of the fragile beauty we build, of the dreams we leave behind when time moves on. Think back to Atlantis shimmering before it sank, to Shambhala glowing with hidden light, to Uber swallowed by sand, to Babylon with its jeweled gates, to Palmyra and Persepolis blazing against the desert sky. Think of Machu Picchu in the clouds, Tikal in the jungle, Non-Madal upon the sea, Great Zimbabwe in stone, Cahokia in earth, Angkor in vines. Each of these places, whether stone or legend, whispers the same truth, that humanity is always reaching, always building, always carving its hope into the world. And though pride, war, or time may bring silence, nothing is ever fully gone. For memory is a city too, built not of walls but of stories, and stories cannot drown, cannot burn, cannot fade. Imagine now a city that gathers them all, a place beyond, place where ruins rise whole, where temples glow, where bells ring above seas, where pyramids shine beside gardens, where cliff dwellings breathe with firelight, where streets stretch endlessly and every traveler finds a home. This is the city of memory, the eternal city built from every tale ever told, where the lost live again in dream. Walk with me there. Its gates are wide, its towers high, its markets filled with voices from every age, its waters reflecting the glow of countless suns. Here, Shambhala meets Atlantis, Carthage meets Tikal, Angkor meets Petra, and all stand together as though time itself has been healed. And as you walk, you realize the city is not only before you, it is within you, built of your own longing, your own remembering, your own hope. For what is a city but the gathering of lives? And what is memory but the eternal gathering of all who have ever been? And so the journey ends, not in ruin, but in continuity, not in silence, but in song. Close your eyes now and rest within this final city, for its walls are made of peace, its streets are lit with dream, and its gates never close. Sleep gently, traveler, for you have walked the world of lost cities and found them all alive again. Eternal in story, eternal in you. In the endless hush of night we arrive at the last turning of our journey, where the road no longer carries us to new ruins or forgotten towers, but back toward ourselves. For in truth, the story of lost cities has always been a story of human longing, of the dream to carve permanence against the tide of time. We began among waves with Atlantis, and from there wandered through deserts and mountains, through temples and markets, across the whispers of drowned bells and the glow of hidden sanctuaries. Yet all along what we sought was not stone but meaning. Every city, whether rising from history or shimmering in myth, spoke of the same eternal desire to belong, to endure, to create something larger than a single life. Think of Babylon with its gates glowing blue, where voices lifted in prayer as markets thrived, only for silence to follow. Think of Petra carved into cliffs, rose-red as dawn, where caravans poured with jewels and spices, and then vanished into sand. Think of Carthage blazing in defiance, then crumbling to ash, yet leaving a name that still stirs hearts. Think of Angkor, its towers lotus-shaped, mirrored in moats, swallowed by jungle but never erased. Think of Machu Picchu, a city in clouds, where stones cling to mountains as though seeking eternity in the sky. Think of Cahokia mounds, still rising from the plain, whispering that thousands once lived in rhythm with earth and sun. Think of Timbuktu, its manuscripts filled with knowledge, its mosques glowing with earthen beauty, its scholars writing wisdom that outlived empires, and beyond them, think of the dream cities: Shambhala shining in hidden valleys, Avalon resting in mists, Agartha glowing beneath the mountains, Hy-Brasil shimmering like a phantom island, each not a place upon a map, but a reflection of the human soul that hungers always for paradise just beyond reach. As we gather them all together here, it is as if they rise again, not in ruins, but in radiance, forming a single vast city of memory, where every gate stands open, every tower gleams, every bell tolls softly in harmony. Imagine walking its streets, Petra's carved facades glowing beside Babylon's tiled gates, Angkor's lotus towers beside Tikal's pyramids, Nan-Madal's canals flowing beneath Rapa Nui's statues, Great Zimbabwe's walls circling the markets of Samarkand, the manuscripts of Timbuktu glowing under lamps as monks from Lhasa chant nearby, while pilgrims wander and children laugh, and the sound of drums, bells, and chants blend into a single lullaby. This city is not of earth alone, it is built from story, memory, and dream, a sanctuary where nothing is ever lost, where ruins rise whole and silences sing. And as you drift deeper into this vision, you realize that the city is also within you, that each story told has become a stone in your own heart, each legend a gate in your own soul, each whisper a voice in your own memory. For in truth, we are the keepers of every lost city. They live because we speak them, they endure because we remember, and in remembering, we rebuild them brighter than they ever were. And so the journey closes here, not with ending but with return, for as long as stories are told, no city is ever truly gone. Close your eyes now and walk slowly through the gates of this eternal city. Let its towers glow softly around you, let its streets carry you gently, let its voices guide you into peace. Sleep now, traveler, for you have wandered far and gathered much, and though the world may change and cities may rise and fall, in the cradle of dream, all remains eternal, all remains luminous, all remains home. In this last embrace of night, where silence feels wide as oceans and time itself bends into stillness, we come to the eternal conclusion of our wandering a journey that began with the shimmer of Atlantis and has carried us through deserts, jungles, mountains, oceans, and into the endless chambers of human imagination. Now, at the very edge of dream, all the lost cities we have spoken of return not as ruins scattered and broken, but as radiant fragments weaving themselves together into one vast, endless city of memory. Imagine it rising before you, the blue gates of Babylon opening into the rose-red facades of Petra, the lotus towers of Angkor standing beside the pyramids of Teotihuacan, the stairways of Machu Picchu leading upward into the clouds, even as the canals of Nanmadol glimmer with moonlight below. Imagine the manuscripts of Timbuktu glowing with words of wisdom, while the drums of Benin beat softly in rhythm with the wind through Cahokia's mounds. Imagine the bells of Veneta tolling beneath the sea, their sound echoing in harmony with the chants of monks in Lhasa, while the statues of Rapa Nui watch silently from the horizon. Here, every city we have visited stands whole again, every gate thrown open, every light burning softly, every street filled with the voices of generations long past. This is not a city of stone. Alanit is a city built of stories, of memory, of longing, of every human dream, to carve permanence against the tide of impermanence. As you walk slowly through its avenues, you realize there is no division between myth and history, between ruins and radiance. For here Atlantis shines beside Shambhala, Avalon's orchards bloom beside Agartha's, crystal halls, Uber's pillars, gleam beside Carthage's harbors, while Constantinople's domes glow beside the golden roofs of Ayutthaya and the stelae of Aksum. All contradictions fade, all distances dissolve, for this city is built not upon earth but upon remembrance. And as you wander deeper, you sense that the city is alive, that its streets are your own thoughts, its walls your own memories, its towers your own dreams. For in truth, every lost city has always lived within us, within the human heart that builds, hopes, and remembers. Time may drown cities in sea, bury them in sand, cover them in jungle, or reduce them to ash, but time cannot silence memory, and memory cannot silence story. So long as we tell these tales, the cities rise again, brighter than they ever were, eternal in imagination. And so, as this long journey finds its final resting place, let us rest within this eternal city, letting its towers watch over us, its bells lull us, its lights guide us gently into the quiet of sleep. Close your eyes, traveler, for the streets are endless, the voices are kind, and the city will never fade. In dream, it will wait for you, whole and radiant, forever home.